CMMS Radio talks about all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, focused on maintenance management. It's the people, the process, and the culture that make your CMMS journey a success. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. I always say it. Today we got a great episode for you. This is going to be a special one. And I just want to start this one off with, did you know radical job shops make big profits and even bigger impact when they have a killer brand and stupid simple marketing machine in place? And that's why today we've got Emily Wilkins of Marketing Metal on CMMS Radio, and it's ahead of the huge, massive, incredible IMTS that is coming up next week. So I'm going to get this episode out quick. Emily, welcome to CMMS Radio.
Thank you so much, Greg. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for getting me in. It's perfect timing.
Yeah, and the reason I want to talk about IMTS in particular is it's coming next week. Normally I run a backlog and I don't know when I'll get the episode out, but this one's going to come out quick. I got a bunch of friends, people I've met, people I haven't met that are going to this incredible event. I'm not going to make it, but I'm going to try to pull a fast one here and there with some of my friends grabbing some content for me. But I want to talk about you, your journey, how Marketing Metal was born. And we were just chopping it up a little bit before I hit record on some of that stuff. And I just like the idea that people can get to know you and understand more about your journey and how you got into this space. So if you could kind of start us off there, and you go back as far as you want, and just kind of give us a taste of how you got into this. And I have to say before you answer that your passion for what you do, it really does shine through, and that's not just a virtue signal. I mean, I see it, I recognize it, and I love real. I'm big on that. I don't care if somebody drops an F-bomb or something like that. We're trying to do good stuff. So it might happen. So talk to us. How'd you get into this in the first place? And tell us a little bit about your passions around the marketing aspect of Marketing Metal.
Yeah, so it was kind of by accident. I'm in Michigan. I grew up, in the Detroit area, and so there's a ton of manufacturing in my family history and friends groups and whatever. My grandpa was a machinist and VP, retired as like the VP of a machine shop in Detroit, and my husband's grandpa had like a competing shop probably half hour away. My dad kind of dabbled. He had like machines in his, in the basement. So I would play with the drill press with him and, learn all the things. So, and he was always pushing that stuff on me, wanted me to learn skills and, know how things worked and how to build things and, diagnose problems and all of that. So, and then I went to engineering school. I started in mechanical engineering, and after my first co-op experience in my freshman year, I switched to business because I was bored to tears at my co-op. And you can do anything with a business degree, right? So that's what they say. And through that, I got a co-op position working for a fabrication shop right here, actually, near where I live now. I'm on the west side of the state now. So, and I just really fell in love with it. It was just like me and the owner and an engineer in the office, and they were mostly not in the office. So it was really just me in the office a lot of times. So I'd like wander out to the shop and learned how to work the robotic welder. I'd operate the brake press, every once in a while for them, help with assembly things, whatever, like just to get out of my seat so I'm not staring at my computer. And I worked at a lot of different small shops. So, and I've always just loved walking the floor and, asking people what they're doing and just saying hi, bringing a little bit of sunshine into their, into their day, and making them feel like they're interesting and appreciated. And and that's a big part of what I do now too.
Yeah. So yeah, as you're telling that story, and I'm thinking back to, kind of the times and the moments where I might have worked in some type of a shop, not necessarily fabrication. I've been around it a little bit, but I've had some time in, a really nice machine shop where, you're up at freaking before the sun's even up, and you go into work, and I was working a deburring station or,
Oh, fun.
anything like that. But as you were telling the story, I was just imagining when you've done some stuff and you're like, oh, I got a few minutes, I want to see what's going on out there. I'm like imagining the environment when you're in a shop, when you're in a plant, when you're, kind of the ambiance, so to speak. It's just a very different environment that a lot of people don't get to see and experience in this way, where you're actually really there. You didn't just stop by, but you're really there. You're kind of immersed and exposed to it. Was there ever a favorite piece of equipment or process you kind of tried out and got to learn that is like your favorite, or is it at a point now where you have a bunch of different favorites?
I don't know. No one's ever asked me that.
Yeah.
It's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. I always like to play with the robotic welder, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Play with the laser cutter, do some programming stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
I always liked working in my dad's shop, like just cutting things on the saw or whatever. I don't do a lot of that now, unfortunately, but I should probably get back into it. My husband's got a lot of that stuff too, so.
Yeah. So so when we talk about now and what you do with marketing metal, and I love it because it covers so many of the bases and the aspects of what's happening throughout industry. It doesn't even I feel like I could switch that to almost anything, whether it is fabrication, manufacturing. Fabrication is a form of manufacturing, of course, but we like to differentiate that. And all the other things. I'm into maintenance management, computerized maintenance management software, but I try to focus in on the people. So what about marketing metal that exposes you to all these people you get to interact with at these awesome conferences? And, we talked a little bit about like Hallie Haupt, and the list is too long for us to name everybody. So for everybody that knows Emily, I know who you are. I know who a lot of you are, and I admire a lot of the things you do. But what for you, when you connect with these people, what do you find to be the most? That's all right. This we do real here. Phones ring. It's all good. We love when dogs bark too. So
yeah, I got lots of those. Well, two of them.
Nothing wrong with that. What is your favorite thing about the people in the industry? Like, anything you could share about that just kind of, it's your thing. Like you feel this when you get around these people. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
It's all about the people. The people. They're just, manufacturing people are just different. I don't know. They're they like to figure things out, and they're not afraid to try new things, and they like having real, face-to-face interactions. I was listening to your episode with Tony Gunn earlier, and he was talking about, it's still very much like a handshake kind of a business, and those personal relationships are everything. And I love hearing their stories, hearing how they started their shop or ended up acquiring it, or whatever whatever it may be. A lot of them are like second or third generation. They're trying to breathe some new life into their shop, right? So I love hearing their stories, and I don't know, I always become like BFFs with my clients. So
I think that's a really common thing for a lot of us in different aspects of industry where we get to interact with these people. I tell people all the time, like whether they ask or not, they might say, what's your favorite thing about it? It's like, I like connecting with people and having these conversations, because not only is it real, but we get these opportunities to learn little things, tidbits, if you will. There might be, I was just talking to a buddy of mine. His name's Bryan, Bieschke, and he works over at this company called UpKeep, and they're a CMMS provider. And this isn't meant to necessarily promote them, but the reason I want to share this is he was talking about someone that he had on his podcast, and they got to this concept of learning. And through this conversation, I can't tell you what it is because he's going to drop that probably next week, but just these moments that come up that are learning opportunities, and it happens constantly. And I hear things from people like, salt of the earth, people that are super real, people that don't have a filter, which the reason we would want people that don't have a filter is because we want the reality of what's happening. And we don't want to necessarily worry about, it's got to be said in a certain way. Give us the real. I mean, that's what's going to happen in a fabrication shop when somebody's working on something and something weird happens, a piece of equipment fails or something like that. They're going to say it like it is. They're going to say, an F-bomb or something like that. But then they're going to go try to solve it. They're not going to, they're not typically going to get stuck because these environments can't stand being stuck. If nothing's happening, it's a real problem. Do you ever hear about or see, or have you ever experienced on your own the maintenance side of the house when it comes to, people have to maintain the machines so that they don't fail? Have you seen a lot of that and heard a lot of stories maybe where that's important, or have you heard a lot of stories about how we're just not doing well on the maintenance side of things? Anything about that you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, maintenance is so key, especially when you're running a small shop. Like, these guys drop, more than $1 million on some of these machines, and there's the dogs. Got them. Awesome.
Love
it. Yeah. So it's really important to keep them up, because if they don't, you're like wasting $1 million, right? You're putting it at risk. So, and I've been in shops that are really good at that, and I've been in some shops that are not so good at that. And it tends to be like, I had a business coach once that said, like, the way you show up in one thing is how you show up everywhere. And it bothered me at the time because she was like, it was kind of a dig at something that I had done, and I was a little bit annoyed, but it really made me think about it, and like, yeah, that's kind of true, and the shops that are really clean and organized and friendly, and they tend to do better, right? They tend to be a little bit more successful and pay more attention to their quality and their maintenance, and it's like it's that level of care and responsibility, I think, for the things that you have and the people in your care, right?
Yeah, that's really important what you just said there, the people in your care, because I'll say shit like, maybe I'm too righteous, or, well, so what if I am? When it comes to a plant, a shop, and you make it about anything but the people, you're going to have problems. And that relates highly to the maintenance itself and how those processes, if you will, are in place for that shop. Because you got to have the safety. That's going to come back to maintenance. You got to have production. That's going to come back to maintenance. You got to have the machine uptime. That's going to come back to maintenance. What do we got there? We got a doggy coming in?
We got a husband that just got home from work. So
all right.
And
nothing wrong with that.
Of course, this is like the one time that the sun is like coming right at me in my window.
Well, we'll try to keep you from getting cooked. I'm on the West Coast. We're having a heat wave out here. It's a no joke heat wave. So
yeah, it's getting warmer here. We've had some nice cool fall stuff, but it's warming up again for this weekend. So.
But you get the benefit of real fall. I don't think of California as real fall. I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to say it out loud here. I prefer like Midwest, that kind of fall, East Coast, good stuff.
It's my favorite. The crisp, cool mornings. You can go sit out and snuggle up in a blanket on the porch. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. So getting back to this world of manufacturing and the time you've spent. Oh, look at
There's the
that.
dog.
That's awesome. That's awesome. The event you're heading to, IMTS,
Yeah.
it's a huge event, and I've never been to it. I'm not going to make it there, but you're going to be there, and a bunch of people that we know in common, whether we actually know them or it's virtual. It's going to be so cool. So I wanted to ask a couple of things. One, like for people to find you, are you going to be in the Creators Lounge? Is that the main place that you're going to be?
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm sure I'll swing by. I have a lot of friends that will be in there.
Yeah.
Most of my friends are running the Creators Lounge this year, so I'm just gonna be wandering. I'm there. So actually, Wednesday, I have a interview with the Fabricator podcast. That'll be my my second interview on there. I think I was like the second episode or third episode or something. So yeah, that'll be really fun to reconnect with those guys and talk about FabTech, because that is also coming up in a month. And I'm speaking at FabTech this year for the second time. So yeah, so I'm excited about that. It's not live. It's going to be posted after the show. I'm not sure when exactly, but yeah, and then I don't know. We'll see what we find. I'm kind of in it for the parties this year.
Well, that was going to be my next question is, can you tell me a little bit about Sellout and what that is? Because I saw you posted about it, but instead of reading a bunch of stuff, I just thought I'm going to ask Emily when we're recording and just see what she has to say about that. What is Sellout?
So, Chris Luecke, love that guy. I don't know where he gets his energy, but I wish I could siphon it off of him. He is so actually IMTS 2 years ago, last time I was here, he and I and Meaghan Ziemba, all went out after the show for drinks, and he was like, there's this cool place that I gotta take you guys to. It's cool punk rock, called Reggie's. It's like 3 blocks away. Well, it was really more like 20 blocks away, but so we're walked down to Reggie's, and we just had a great time just hanging out, and then I think it was FabTech last year. He hosted an event there that was just it was kind of low key. There were about 20 people there. But with his touring this year that he's been doing, he's had these like road shows, and he's really wanted to bring music. He's very passionate about music and punk rock, and been wanting to kind of bring those two things together, because there's manufacturing people like music too, right? So
absolutely.
So why not bring the two together? So he was really trying to get like an actual band, like, not that cover bands aren't actual bands, but like an original band to come play, stuff that we know. I know he tried really hard to do that and wasn't able to pull it together this time, but hopefully he doesn't mind me sharing. But anyway, he found these 2 cover bands. One is like punk emo music, and then the other one's more like 90s sing-along hits. So I don't know which one's starting, but yeah, so we're doing that. That's Thursday night. And it's upstairs, I think, at Reggie's. Reggie's is like three stories, and they have a rooftop bar with, it's like kind of covered, and it's very punk rock. It's like graffiti walls and all the thing, it's a hole in the wall kind of place. It's great. So yeah, doing that on Thursday night, and then there's a karaoke thing on Wednesday night that I'm going to. It's a manufacturing mic drop, so that should be fun too. That's Jim Mayer's brainchild.
I was talking to Jim somewhat recently, and so I'm glad you brought that one up too. I
love Jim. I was actually supposed to meet with him before this, and then we both were like too busy, and we're texting like, how about we just put this off until after the IMTS Insanity?
Yeah. No, Jim's awesome. He's going to be doing some cool stuff over there too. And so, for anybody that catches this episode, I'm going to try to whip it together pretty quick and get it out there. Keep an eye out, not only for Emily and Marketing Metal, but, Chris Luecke, of course. Look for Jim Mayer, a bunch of people. Meaghan, you mentioned. Drew Crowe is going to be there.
So and Meaghan and Drew and Chris was kind of involved with this too. They're hosting an event that's I believe it's happening every day of the show, so Monday through Friday, 11 to noon in the Student Summit. They're doing it's called the Manufacturing Ally Rally, and it's all discussions about creating more diversity in manufacturing and what does that mean, and how can we do it in a way that is good for everybody, right?
Yeah, and there's going to be probably a lot of talk about the skilled trades gap, promoting the trades. This is all connected to manufacturing because it's all right there, and then that comes back into my world when it comes to maintenance management, because maintenance management is happening, essentially everywhere, right? At some level, even on a micro level in our personal lives.
Here comes the cat. We got the cat.
Yeah, we got them all. We got cats and dogs, mayhem, pandemonium around here. So real quick on that one event that I was talking about, it's called Sellout. It's 90s versus emo night, and that's at Reggie's Rock Club. It's happening on Thursday, September 12th. It's classified as the unofficial after party for IMTS, and that is International Manufacturing Technology Show. So get over there. Tickets are $15 if they're in advance and $20 on the day of the show. There's a link in the comments on a post that Emily put out today, which is Thursday the 5th. So go and find that. I'll try to link something up in the episode. I'm going to have a lot of editing to do on this one, so I'll work on that probably tonight. But I want to switch you into a different segment that I like to do for first timers on CMMS Radio. And it's called the Fun Question segment. Are you ready?
Yeah, shoot.
There are no wrong answers here. Number 1, what is your favorite music?
That is a really hard question. I love music just in general. Like and that is not a cop out. Like I legit anywhere from, belting out Taylor Swift to Metallica to, I've been to a Tool concert. Like I was obsessed with Tool actually in high school. Big Metallica fan, and who's also Hallie talked about this on her show, but doing some really cool things with skilled trades, which is amazing.
Shout out to All Within My Hands. That's Metallica's nonprofit, and that includes MetallicaScholars program. I'm all about that. We talked about that a few times.
Yeah. I love rap, hip hop, country is probably my least favorite. Kind of depends on country. Some of it's good. some of those throwbacks to college are fun,
There you go.
I'll throw on some classical jazz sometimes. Nice, if I'm doing like a focus morning, I love putting on like a, coffee shop jazz or like Paris cafe or whatever, like instrumental type stuff. And my parents used to take us to jazz club when I was, 12, 10. So
that's a great way to torture kids. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Fun question number 2.
Okay.
What is your favorite sport or hobby? And on the sport, it doesn't have to be one that you actually play. It could be one you just like to watch and support.
So my husband says I have negative interest in sports. It's probably true. My favorite sport to watch, to actually go to a game and watch, would be baseball, and my main reason for that is because of the 7th inning stretch. That is my favorite part. For the entire stadium to get up and do a stretch, 3/4 of the way through the game is like the coolest thing. I think we need to do more of that. Like we should implement that in our manufacturing shops. as far as sports that I like to do, it depends on the season. I'm a sailor, so I have a sailboat that I race with a group of ladies on Thursday nights. This is our first night that we're not racing because it's only in the summer. So and then in the winter, I love to ski. Swimming is probably one of my favorite things to do. Just love to be in the water.
Right on. Right on. All right. It's time for the big one.
Okay.
Of these 3 questions, this third one is classified as the big one. No wrong answers here. What is your philosophy, perspective, opinion, strategy, anything at all on the concept of work-life balance?
Yeah, that's been a great one that I've grappled with. As an entrepreneur and workaholic, I've had to work on that a lot myself. It's hard when you're trying to build a business and starting from scratch, and you just do all the things. This year this is my 5th year in business, and last year was chaos. I had a lot going on. My first major speaking gig at FabTech. I was on tons of podcasts, like, I don't know, 25 something podcasts. I did my own podcast also at the Advanced Manufacturing Expo in Grand Rapids. We did that again this year. But so it was just like mass chaos. There was so much going on. I had big, like, major shifts in my team structure and kind of things that I was, ways that we were doing business. So yeah, it was just a really, it was a very tough year. Tough as in, like, hard work. It was a grind year for sure. So this year I was really intentional about, like, let's enjoy some of this freedom that we've created for ourselves. Let's take advantage of this beautiful place that we live in. We live in a vacation town, so people literally come here in the summer to vacation. And so it was a real big goal of mine this year to just, like, just live. I did a lot more just living, trying not to think about work on purpose. And it was a little slow in the beginning of the year, but it's picked up, and it kind of worked out because that's how the economy was anyway. It seemed like everybody was slow in the beginning of the year. So, I don't know. I think we go through phases of life. We go through cycles. Sometimes we're grinding hard. Other times we're fucking off. It's just, I think it depends on what the situation calls for. And, I'm my health is very important. It has to be a priority. I have Crohn's disease. I don't know if we've touched on this before, but I almost died 7 years ago. My intestines exploded. So I've had to be very conscious of my health since then. And so that comes first. And a huge part of that obviously is managing stress and having some level of balance in your life, right? So I really had to put some firm boundaries on myself around what time I was going to allow myself to work, what time I needed to put my laptop away, and have a very firm bedtime, right? And all of that. So I don't know. I think it looks different for everyone, and you kind of do what you need to do in that season of life.
I really appreciate you sharing that, because what I'm thinking about and what's important to me about that is people have to really often be intentional about this idea of whether they even believe it exists or not, work-life balance. And when you say it the way you said it, I think lately I've been doing more commentary when somebody answers after the fact rather than just wrapping up the episode, because if you really think about that intentionality, there's typically going to be something that's centralized or a center of what you're trying to do, and that's what that kind of feels like when you describe that and you share that, and that creates some of your intentionality around not only what you're doing for your health, but then it can permeate into everything else rather than what might typically be the opposite. That could be something that just craters everything for somebody, and then it's just all
It
it's
did.
all just
It cratered everything. I was completely out of work for 3 months, and then went back part-time for a few months after that, and ultimately that's what drove me to start my business. I had always had the entrepreneur bug, but I really needed more flexibility, and I wasn't, my boss before I started marketing metal was very, at the time he was pretty chill and pretty okay with me working from home in the morning, whatever. But it still just wasn't, it wasn't enough. It was really hard for me to go sit in an office when I knew that I could do the same work at home, and be close to my own bathroom and those things that people who don't have gastrointestinal issues don't really think about, so or have to.
Yeah. We could do more than one episode just on that subject. So we don't want to spin out there, not right now.
Yeah.
But I know some things about it. So we'll do that conversation another time, maybe even just you and I chopping it up. But first of all, I want to thank you for this time, because I know you're running and gunning to get ready for heading out to IMTS. And I know we had to kind of slot this time and be real strategic about what your availability was. Couple of things. So, number one, my opinion for how people should get in touch with you is just to find you on LinkedIn. That's where I tend to play, and not always, looking at the other platforms or anything like that. So you can find Emily there. It's Emily Wilkins, and that's Wilkins, and the company is Marketing Metal. So find them, hook up with her, have a nice conversation. You never know where it's going to go, but she's got a hell of a lot more insight than what we were able to share on this particular episode, because we've talked before, and I know that. Anybody knows I'm not bullshitting about that stuff. The other thing is, when you're at IMTS, anybody out there, make sure you try to find her, keep an eye out for her, go to that special event. Some of the other people that she has mentioned, or I might have mentioned, make sure you're looking for them and hooking up with them. And Emily, thank you for being on CMMS Radio.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Greg. It was great.
Oh, one last question.
Yeah.
Talk to me about those awesome posters behind you. And I know they're miniature posters, but I mean, I think you got Dracula, Creature of the Black Lagoon. You just love those old time movies, and they have to be horror films.
I do. I've always just been obsessed with Halloween, and not horror movies per se, more like the monster movies, like, fantasy type stuff. So yeah, and I just growing up, my mom and I used to watch a lot of old movies, and I'm a huge fan of the Abbott and Costello spoofs on all of these movies.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, they're great. I think anytime a remake or a reimagining of one of them comes out, I have to see it. I'm obsessed. I love Creature of the Black Lagoon. I think is my favorite poster over here, and which is one of the ones that hasn't really been redone a lot. The Shape of Water came out a few years ago, and that was kind of based on that, and so good, loved it.
I agree, but there's a few things there that people might need to brace themselves for.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm cool with it. I don't care. I could care less. I thought it was a good show, but I was going to ask you which one is your favorite, and now you've told me that it's Creature of the Black Lagoon, and I think that's solid. I think that's a really solid one. So we're going to actually end the episode on that note, but stay with me. Thank you for this time.
Yeah.
Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit CMMSradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.